All right. Hey, welcome everyone. It's Chris Petri. Thanks for coming by for another video. We're going to have an absolutely fun time painting this flower arrangement here in a beautiful golden vase. We have lots of details. We're going to actually, on camera at all times, we will have either your pencil sketch that you're going to be using as you go. We will have that on while we do our pencil sketch prior to our painting. And then once we are actually getting started on our painting, we will have this on camera at all times. That'll be our reference photograph, which is actually a clipping from my book. If you're interested in my new watercolor book, it's down below in the comment section, a link to, you can view it. You can see all the pages in the book on a short video, 1-minute video. I'll flip through the whole book in that video. You'll see it, all the pages of my book, all the paintings in there. And then as well, we're going to have this palette on camera at all times, which will give you all the colors you're going to need. We'll mix everything out as we go, creating this painting. We'll explain each of the colors, how we mix them, how we put them onto the paper. So this is the perfect video if you really enjoy flower painting. We're going to cover all the details and all of the minutiae that you need to get this project completed, and I know you'll have a fun time doing it. So let's not delay any further. Let's get started. Right away, we'll get into the pencil drawing, and then we'll move on to the painting. All right, so we just saw the finished painting, and now we're going to get started on our pencil drawing here. So again, I'm going to work from my book. So these are, I have extra copies in my studio of my book, so I usually tend to like to clip out all of the paintings out of my book and then have them to use for tutorials when we're doing these type of tutorials with flowers. And and this is also, so if you have my book, you can work right from my book. But I'll put this on camera as we're working. And pencil drawing we'll do first, so we'll kind of use this to create our pencil drawing, contour drawing. And then again, we'll use this to paint. So we'll have this all, we'll have this for our reference for all of our colors and everything for our painting. So we'll start out, we'll just, maybe I'll put my drawing up here like that. And I'll probably just use a standard mechanical pencil. I like the Draftmatic. All of my supplies, incidentally, are in the description box below. So if you want to shop around and see some of the different things I have, I pretty much buy all my supplies on Amazon. Amazon tends to have mostly all my art supplies that I ever need to replenish when I'm working, and I need to replenish paints or pencils or erasers, any kind of thing like that. Paper. Amazon has pretty much everything, and it's so convenient for me. I just, have Amazon Prime, which means my deliveries are for free most of the time. So that's also free. I don't have to pay for extra for delivery, things like that. But in any case, these are on Amazon, the Draftmatic pencils. This is a 0.9 millimeter lead. And these are great too. You don't have to worry about sharpening them really. You just click on the top of the mechanical pencil, and you just immediately have more pencil lead to use. So we're going to start with this, and the first thing I notice is, the arrangement is sitting in a beautiful vase here, a metal vase, a gold vase, and it's sort of sitting at the bottom of the composition. So it's on a table, and maybe there's something maybe there's a back, we could maybe put a backdrop in there if we wanted to, maybe the back of the table if we wanted to, something like that. That might be something we can consider doing if we want to. But we'll leave this right here and at the top of the picture frame. And then what I'll do is I'll start here, which would be the center of the bouquet, pretty much. And if I look at my paper here, my clipping, it's about halfway, a little bit less than halfway up. So if this is halfway up on my paper, so let's say that's my paper, here we have halfway. Sometimes you can use a ruler if you want to kind of measure some things here and there. So I use a T-square a lot. T-squares are really fantastic. So I might just take my T-square, put it onto my paper, and I've actually taped around my entire painting with some drafting tape, some it's called PRO, Pro drafting tape. And then I use that to go around my painting. And this way, when we're done painting, we just peel off our tape and it looks beautiful. It looks like there's a nice border, a nice crisp, clean border around our painting. But I'm here looking at this and I'm saying to myself, well, this is approximately, it's about 7 inches high here. So half of 7 is 3.5 or 3.5 inches. So if I make a mark at the center point there, then I know I'm pretty much, this would be the center of the page. I want to go a little lower than the center of the page. If I'm looking at this, this is a little lower than center. So maybe I go another ½ inch. So maybe I go to 4 inches down from the top, or 3 inches, 1, 2, and 3 up from the bottom. And that gives me about where I need to be with the top of my vase. And that's the one key waypoint we want to have. And I always use a kneaded eraser. These are nice, these soft kneaded erasers. They don't make any crumbs at all. So, because especially with watercolor, if you're working with watercolor, it's really, crumbs when you're painting, and the crumbs can get into eraser crumbs can get into the paint and into the water. And when you're painting, so it's just better off we use kneaded erasers. They're really very useful to have and good to use. And then, so now we've got that point there, and then we can just also transfer that over. This vase is pretty much at the center of the painting. So we'll leave that like it is. And if we need to find the center of our paper, our rectangle, our painting, again, we can use a ruler and just say, okay, what do we have here? We have about 8 inches. So about 4 inches. Actually, this is 9 inches. So half of 9 is 4.5 or 4.5 inches, 4.5. There we go. And then you can just sort of eye that up and say, okay, that's about there. And then, so we kind of have where the top of our vase is going to be. And about the center point where we're going to start to create this. So the first thing I would do is I would lightly get my vase. The top of my vase, I might put a little bit of a curve on there, just a little bit. And then I would start to make some leaf forms there. And you can do this loosely based on what you're seeing here. You don't have to follow every line like I wouldn't. Now that I'm doing this drawing, using this as my reference, I wouldn't try to draw it exactly like this. I would use this as like basically a loose idea of like what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to follow it, but I'm not going to be really worrying too much if I go off a little bit, if I make one flower larger than the other, if one of my leaf forms or leaves looks a little larger, a little smaller, maybe on a different angle, something like this. I wouldn't worry about those type of things. I would just let it kind of be a good guide and basis to what we're going to do as far as drawing here, but I'm not going to get too worried. And I think I'll just go for it and just start drawing the this flower arrangement here. And I don't think I'll do a really light wash, drawing, pencil drawing first. You could do let's do it. Let's do a preliminary sketch. Preliminary sketch is when you're going to do the basic idea of where everything is, but doing it really lightly on your paper so that if you want to make any changes and do some erasing, you can do it really easily because it's very, very light. I'll do it a little darker than I would normally do just so we can kind of see here on camera. So I'll do the preliminary sketch, which is really essentially to be just a very, very super light sketch with your pencil, almost just barely touching the paper with your pencil, just so you can get things where you want them first and make sure you are happy with the way the overall shape of everything is shaping up in your design of your, painting. So that's what we'll do. We'll just kind of, maybe I'll just go super light. But again, I'm going to go a little bit darker because I know you're going to need to kind of see this. So I'm going to do I'm just going to ask myself the question, how far out from my vase am I going to go? So maybe I'll start my vase here, and then it's going to come out here. So I'm just going to, And maybe my vase isn't large enough. So if my vase isn't large enough right away, I can just say, oh, let me go a little further down here. There we go. Much better. And then we go up here. And then I'll just do, again, I'm doing a very light sketch. But I would do it even lighter than I'm doing it right now. I just, again, I want to do this a little darker to start with so that you can kind of see what I'm doing here. But I'm just trying to feel out everything and make sure I'm getting everything in the right spot. And that's about good there. A little bit of a curve to that. And then again, we could make the backdrop here. We could make the table. If you're going to make a table behind your vase, it's up to you if you want to do that or not. My original painting does not have that. Or you could even make it very minimal. So maybe you just make a really tremendously light line across your painting. And that you can, so what you can do is you can basically paint in that back of the table on your painting. So if you just go with a really super light pencil line, that gives you your back of your table edge, the edge of the back of your table. And then when you go into paint, you don't necessarily want to make it a really like strong point in your feature in your painting. You maybe want, well, maybe you might want to do that, but you can just lighten up that line. Once you have it in there, you just lighten it up. So this way you kind of know where it is when you're painting. And you can basically paint in that line. But here we go. We're getting back into things here. There's a little bit of there's like a bead, a couple beads across this vase, like a beaded feature, like beads that are around the vase, like that. So those kind of just protrude a little bit beyond the edge of the vase, like that. And we'll keep going here. So I'm going to work over this way, I think, to the left. And we'll go up this way. And I think this one flower up here is kind of nice. It's over here, so I'll just make that. Make that there. And then there's, right over here, there's another flower here. Like this. And as I come down here, I see another bit of flower shapes here. And again, you can do as much detail as you want. And you can stick to the exact drawing as much as you want, or you can kind of just loosely follow this drawing to, you know, for a custom look that you want to have. Okay, and then we have that there. I might move that up a little bit. I might even go over here with it now. Okay, so I'm just going to move the drawing over this side here so that I can continue working over here. And I'll make some of those little bits of branches. You know, not really branches, they're kind of like twigs. This is very much like a wildflower type of scene here, of arrangement, where these are kind of things we would pick if we went out into the backyard, or if we went into a park or something like that, and we wanted to gather some a few flowers, some branches, some twigs, some stems and things, some leaf forms, things like that. You can kind of go out and just around the house or in your neighborhood or, you know, at a park, anything like that. You can kind of gather up a bunch of really beautiful greens, leaves, stems, twigs, flowers. There's tons of flowers out in nature that are just free, that you can go out when you're out and about and maybe doing a little bit of hiking or just enjoying out some weather and going to a park or anything like that. Sometimes we have to be careful when we're picking flowers and things. If it's on someone's property, that's not probably a good thing to do. That happened to me once. I think I was clipping some flowers on an area that was kind of near my house, and I didn't realize it was someone's personal property. I thought it was like public land or something like that, and the person came out of the house, and they were kind of a little mad that I was taking flowers off their land, their property. But it was not really a big problem. It was just, they just said, please don't do that, and I apologized, and that was it. And so now we're going to continue here with more. So let me finish over here on the right hand side, and then like this. And there's a few more stems like that. You can paint in the stems as you go. So when you're painting, you can kind of, as long as you just maybe put a light bit of pencil line to figure out kind of where you want to have your stems. Those like really fine stems and things, you can put those into the drawing just as. Okay, so you can kind of see we have a pretty good likeness of what we're doing here. If I put it underneath the vase, maybe. I think I need to add a little more. There's a couple more leaf forms and a flower up top here. There, and then there's some more leaf forms and a few bit of twigs there. Like that. And I think that's good. I would say we're pretty much have a good likeness of what we're trying to do here. I think that's fine. And then what we'll do is we'll introduce this now. So this will be our colors, our color scheme of the painting. You can change these around too if you want. You can make different color flowers. You might make, if you like warmer colors, you can make a yellow or an orange flower, purple, any color really you want to for the flowers. But this is going to stick to the realism of it. I did work from a photograph, I think, at the time when I did do the original painting. So I worked from a photograph, I think. And the vase is going to be gold color, so that'll look good. And there's lots of greens. And so I think we have it. This looks good. Now, if you do a preliminary sketch, which is really, really light, a preliminary drawing, just remember, if you like to see pencil lines in your painting showing through, which gives actually your painting, from my perspective, I like seeing pencil lines in my watercolor paintings showing through in the composition, in the painting. I think it gives the painting more depth, more variety, more interesting things going on in it versus just trying to paint without any pencil lines. I really enjoyed the pencil lines in my paintings. So, but you can make your pencil lines lighter and just leave it that way so that they're barely visible. It's all up to you. You're the artist. You'll kind of find what you like to see in your paintings. That's all. It's all good. So again, this is going to be where we're going to work from next. We'll put this right up here when we start, like that. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll start out with the painting, and we'll leave this right up here. Maybe I'll use some Scotch tape. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come right back, and we'll start working out our colors. We'll put some colors out on our palette just to get a little bit ahead of the process. We want to maybe start to think about what colors we're going to use and put them out onto the palette, and then this way we're not really starting our painting and then having to stop and then start to think about all the what colors we need next. Let's figure out what we need color for our colors, put them out on the palette for the most part, just so they're out there and we can see them on the palette itself. And then if you need to add to it, if you use up some of the colors you put onto your palette, well, then you'll just take a little more out of your paint wells and refill it, restock the palette, so to speak. You restock the area that you might have depleted if you used a lot of one color. Let's say you used up a lot of the green, sap green, let's say. Well, then if you see you're running low over here on sap green, you can kind of see where the sap green is on your palette, and you just go, oh, I have to lift a little more out of the paint well and just restock over here onto my palette. But this way you'll always have the same colors working for your painting all the time, and you won't be kind of getting into that issue that sometimes artists will have where they might be working all the colors, specific number of colors in their palette, and then in the middle of the painting they somehow pick up a different color than they used, that they haven't used, and if they just put that in one or two locations, it could look like very much unpleasant looking, because you have like all these colors that are all harmonizing together because you're using them throughout your whole painting, and then all of a sudden someone has put in another color that they didn't use at all for like 90% of the painting, and that sometimes will look a little bit again, unpleasant, not really too pleasing looking for a finished painting. But in any case, let's take a quick break, and we'll come right back and we'll start painting. All right, the first thing I like to do when we are going to start our painting is we'll pick out a brush that's going to be the right size for our painting. So this is a good size painting. This is like maybe an 8x9 or a 7x9 size painting. It's kind of more of a square shape versus a rectangle. It's a little more of a square shape, so it's, about maybe like 7x9, I think it is. In any case, before I start painting, I did notice when I come back from taking a break, that's when my eyes are a little fresher. My mind, I can kind of see things I might not have seen if I was working for 20 minutes to a half an hour. So I noticed that in this vase is kind of, it has that little bit of a curvature at the bottom of the vase, but then it goes straight vertical up like this. It doesn't kind of have any curves once it gets above this curved area at the bottom of the vase. So it kind of goes straight. So I just want to get that line straight like that. And this one too. Just like that. So I just wanted to kind of just restate that on my pencil drawing so I know when I'm painting I'll stick to that. And again, a brush, I like to use the largest brush that I think is going to work effectively in my painting, but not go too large with the size brush so that I have a lot of difficulty trying to get the smaller forms and shapes. We can always go in with a smaller brush. We can do that too. So we'll have a couple smaller brushes on hand over here on the side. So if you find that you're starting out with a painting with a larger brush, which is I think good to use the largest brush you feel you can use without it being like, causing an issue with trying to paint it effectively as you're going. You can always just revert back to bringing in a smaller brush. Maybe you'll do some of the larger shapes first, like the vase, and some of the larger flowers first with a larger brush like this. This is a number 8 Da Vinci travel brush, Pure Kolinsky 1503 Germany brush. And then we have some other things here. I have a Charles Reed number 4 brush here for more details. It's a travel brush too as well. And I also have another smaller brush here. I have a Jack Richardson. This is a synthetic brush, a number 4 travel brush by Jack Richardson, which is the series 7130. And I also have my, I always have my needlepoint brushes. These are Alvaro Castanet brushes. I get those at his website, and these are great brushes, the needlepoint brushes. I also have his mop brushes too as well if I'm painting larger paintings. But these are all brushes I use on an ongoing basis, and I think most of the brushes I do have in the comments section below. You'll see if you see the word more, you click on more and you'll see more information, and then you'll just see that I have most of all my art supplies that I use personally. Those are the ones that I have down in the description box below. And so let's get started with, let's look at the colors and say, well, we know we're going to have sap green. We're going to use lots of sap green for the green leaf forms. We'll use some of the, let's use olive green. I like olive green a lot. So that'll be something we're going to use for our greens. You can always have a bit of some cadmium yellow lemon. That's a fantastic bit of yellow to add to your greens to lighten them up in certain areas where there might be more light, or you find that you'll have some greens that are looking a little more toward the yellow than the green. So we'll do that. We'll also notice that we will have some blue mixture in our greens. Sometimes that'll be the cooler parts of the greens. Sometimes there's some cool greens that we might just want to put in to the painting to make it look interesting. And maybe some raw sienna too. So I'll have some raw sienna. Like that. Maybe a little bit of yellow ochre along with the raw sienna. So you kind of see we've covered now all of the colors that we need for our leaf forms, and our green shapes of color in this bouquet are covered here, except we might need just a touch of, maybe we'll use some French ultramarine blue up here, like that. And that'll be in the darkest dark areas with some burnt umber too as well. So if you want to get a really dark shadow area or something, like a nice really deep dark shadow, you can just add some French ultramarine blue and burnt umber in the corner of your palette up here. And that'll be for some of those really, really dark areas maybe that you might see here and there that are like deeper inside the bouquet where there's not much light there. So you can just kind of see more of a darker tonal value. And then we would make sure that we're going to get our beautiful rose madder and alizarin crimson for our pink flowers. So we'll put that here. And we'll try to make sure we don't have any. Let's keep this. I'll actually take this here and put this up here. So I'll just try to move that over there as best I can, and then I might take a paper towel. I'll take a paper towel and just, I'll lift up some of that darker wash there so that I can have, I don't want my pink and red, so my alizarin crimson and rose madder, I don't want that contaminated, or not contaminated, but I don't want that, those colors to be, I want them to remain light and really looking good. So the way I do that is I make sure there's no other colors that are going to kind of leak into those washes. So I think we have a lot of the colors that we need. There's the gold vase, which is going to be like over here, this raw sienna and yellow ochre. We might need some burnt sienna for that too. So we can put some burnt sienna down here. So in essence, what I've done now, and well, I know if you've been with me a long time, you probably are doing this on a continual basis because I always mention it. But if you're here for the first time, welcome. Thanks for coming by. We're having a great time watercolor painting here. And I want you to, if you're just starting out for the first time, I have a lot of great videos too. I just wanted to mention this on the, as a side note. I do have what's called the Extreme Beginner series videos that I have on my YouTube channel. So if you just type in the word Extreme Beginners, you'll see literally hundreds of videos that I've created that are specifically for people that are just starting out, where you don't know what palettes to buy, what paintbrushes to buy. With the Extreme Beginners series videos, you'll kind of see me going over what palettes I'm using and what brushes I'm using, which are more inexpensive, because when you're just starting out, you don't want to buy extremely expensive art supplies because you might not like it for some reason. You might say, I'm not too thrilled about watercolors. I've tried it a few times, and then you have you've invested too much, maybe money into art supplies and things like that. So the Extreme Beginner series videos are for those that are just starting out for the first time and you're not quite sure. Some of you might just say, oh, I'm just starting out for the first time and I want to do paint watercolors and, I'm going to do it. That's fine. That's how I was when I first started. I just knew I was going to keep going, so I didn't mind spending, money on some fancier brushes and things like that. But it's up to you. You're the artist. You're going to figure things out. And if you're just starting out, you'll kind of figure it out as you go. So let's start out with the, I think I'm going to start out with my darks first. We'll paint this all at one time. That's called Alla Prima. And again, welcome if it is your first time here. I'm really excited that you're here. You're at the right place at the right time. And again, if you're just starting out, definitely check out my Extreme Beginners videos, you'd want to start there first, but you still want to watch all of these videos, which are more or less my normal day-to-day videos that I'll create for artists that have been painting a while, that are professional artists, or people that are, old grizzled pros. They've been doing it a long time, or even people that have been painting for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and they've got the hang of it, and they're already using better palettes and squeezed tube paints and, really, pretty good, brushes, like really high quality brushes, things like that. That's for people that have been involved with watercolor for quite a long time. So just to mention it. And let's keep going here. So we did say we were going to use the sap green, and let's get some of these darks in right away. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start going in and just looking here and seeing the darks, and then I just want to get those in as I start. And this is where you want to also leave white paper when you're painting a bouquet of flowers. One of your main goals, definitely when you're doing bouquets of flowers, flower paintings, one of your main goals is absolutely leaving white paper showing through the flower arrangement. Sometimes I'll see artists, they'll paint, watercolor artists, I'll see them paint, and they don't leave any white paper behind their flowers and their leaf forms. And what happens is it becomes just like a large conglomeration of dark or medium tones, but just a bunch of color, but it feels like there's no light shining through, or there's like no transparency in the vase. Because usually if you have a vase of flowers, most times you will see a little bit of light through it. There's usually some areas that you can kind of see behind the vase behind the flowers, I'm saying, in the flower arrangement. So that's why I guess I'm kind of just mentioning it. I think it's better to leave some white paper so that you can kind of see through the flower arrangement. Even if you're looking at a flower arrangement that doesn't have any lattice quality to it, I would still try to leave some white paper behind there so that it feels like there's light shining behind the vase and you can see through, and it gives it a more light, airy type of feeling. So, all right, so we have some good darks here that we just put in, some spots of darks, and we'll put in some of our, we'll start developing some of our leaf forms, and then maybe we're going to do a nice lighter, more of a yellowish green here. We'll put that one like that. Here we go with another. Let's use some of the and as I paint, I'm usually resting my hand on the paper, and I'm working on a table that's at waist height. So that's how I have my my YouTube channel, or how I create my videos. I really have it like a large, it's kind of like a shop table that you might see in a basement or in a garage. It's got big, heavy 4x4 legs on it, and I built it, and it's got like thick, heavy, I think I doubled up and tripled up the top with a butcher block. I bought butcher block, which is like 2 inches thick, and I doubled that up, so it's like very, very heavy. This way it doesn't move around and shake around when I'm doing my videos. Maybe some of you might decide to make some videos eventually on YouTube, and this way I kind of share what I have in my shop here in my studio. So we'll keep going here, and why not add a little bit of warmth to this? So now I'll add some of the burnt sienna and yellow ochre just to put some warmth into the cools. The greens are cool feeling, so that I'll add some of that just to give ourselves a little bit of a variation for our greens. And again, this is very kind of abstracty, as you can imagine. I'm just getting some of these darks that I'm seeing here. I can even start putting in some of these stems. If I see a few stems, I'll start putting those in. And I'll start going up here again with some French ultramarine blue and burnt umber, just so I have some dark up there. Dark paint, I dry off my brush a little bit so that I don't have too much paint on the tip of the brush. This is more of a thicker stem, so maybe I can use my larger brush to do that on a few of the stems that are a little bit thicker, like this. And then maybe I'll create another bit of green over here. Maybe I'll make a darker green, so I'll use sap green, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of French ultramarine blue. I'll make a darker green here. Like this. And what else do we have here? All right, so that is coming along very good. And I'll put the center of the flower here. So already we're developing that white flower here, and if you can imagine, we've already started to paint around these petals of this white flower that's right here, which is right here. So once you start painting around this flower, it starts to appear, and we call that negative shape painting, which you paint around an object, and while you're painting around an object, the object actually starts to appear, and you see its form and its shape. So right now I don't have to really worry about that white flower. I've already sort of shaped things around it, these green leaf forms around it. And now we can just leave that as it is, and it just shows up as a nice white flower here in the center of the vase. And we will put a little bit of shadowing on it too, eventually. But we'll just keep working. And I think what I'll do is I will take a quick break right now. Every once in a while, I think it's good to take breaks. You might have a little more, everyone's different. So some people have a little more concentration level. It may be, it's everyone's uniquely different. So, but I do usually take a break every 15, 20 minutes. Since I'm standing right now, I'm going to have a seat. I'll sit down in my studio and I'll put on YouTube and watch maybe an art video or something, or maybe I'll put on the news and check and see if there's anything interesting on the news on my YouTube channel. I'm always watching YouTube, incidentally, for art as well as any kind of news, things like that. But in any case, let me take a quick break. I'll sit down for a few minutes, and then we'll just start to develop more of the flowers and the leaf forms going out from the center. And we'll also start working on our vase, getting our gold colors for our vase in here. So I think I might start working on that next, maybe a little bit of the vase, and then we'll see how it goes. All right, so I'm just going to keep working my way, maybe over here to the left. And we'll use some cerulean blue, a couple splashes over here, and I'll paint around that white flower with a little bit of cerulean blue and raw sienna. A couple splashes. And that looks good. And then I'll just add a little more lighter wash just to dampen the paper. And what that does is, again, that's negative shape painting. We talked about that before. And you can do a little bit of just a little bit of brushwork to maybe smooth out those washes like so. And we will put more color into the background later. And a couple more splashes here and there. You could take those splashes and then add some water to them. And that becomes your light wash. So right now, basically, I just added some background wash, and I'm going to work that into the bouquet area. Kind of give it a quality of things starting to tie together. of red and pink over here. We'll start to put in some of those red and pink colors here for our pink flowers. Our pink wildflowers there. Have fun with this. No need to get really super fussy about the washes. You can go back in and add darker washes if you want to. Once you're, you can always blot up a little bit of paint if you need to. Once in a while, if you feel like you've painted a little too much, you could just pick up a little bit of paint with a tissue or paper towel. But you can kind of start to work in some colors, and you can always take a little bit of straight paint right from the tube and just add it in a few spots here and there. And then rinse off the brush, dry off the water. Rinse off the brush, dry off the water so that the brush remains almost just damp. And then you can go in and move the wash around a little bit, the colors. But that makes a nice little bit of spot of really high intensity color. And then we have more that's a good way to kind of paint. Sometimes with flowers, you kind of make a medium or a light wash first, and then you take some like straight paint, even if you want to, and then just a tiny bit of that fresh squeezed tube paint on the tip of your brush, and you just touch it down into the flower area, and that automatically gives you like that feeling of there's some light and shadow in the petals of your flower. And we'll do the same thing over here, a light wash of the pink here. I would also suggest sometimes just painting over your pencil lines and disregard what you might have drawn underneath. And maybe, let's say, not a lot of cases, but once in a while you can do that. You can just say, I think I want to add a petal to a flower over an area that didn't have it when I was drawing it with pencil. That's okay. You can do that with watercolor. It's fine. We can't be so rigid all the time and think that we have to do everything exactly as planned. You know, have some fun and change things around in your paintings occasionally when you're painting. You know, you don't want to always just have that mindset of, oh, I have to do everything the right way. If you consider something right or wrong, or what I'm saying is always be flexible when you're painting, and be willing to change some things around if you want to when you're painting, in your painting. Again, like for instance, painting over some pencil lines and making a flower petal that's wasn't there before, put it in if you think it would look good. So you can see we're working over here on the left side, and everything looks to be coming along well here. We have maybe some more dark green, so that's going to be sap green, a little bit of burnt umber up here with some French ultramarine blue. Make a little bit of a darker green here. And maybe a little bit of olive green up here. And then if one of your petals of your flowers start to take on some of the other colors of the green, if it starts to infiltrate into a flower petal, we take a tissue, real simple. You take a tissue and kind of make a little point with your tissue like that, and then just go in and gently tap on it and you can lift up some paint quick. Always a good way to be quick on our feet as a watercolor artist. And what else do we have here? We have some more pink flowers over here, petals of the flowers there. And I think that looks pretty good there. Okay. And you might say, oh, that looks a little bit too big. You can always lift up. And then you can even put in some background wash there. That looks all right. Okay, now we are going to, I might paint down to the table. So now I'm just putting a little bit of water along the bottom here where the table, back of the table is. Splash a little bit of paint there. Sometimes I'll blot up a little bit like that. And then I'll start to work in some of this gold vase right away. And my idea here is, it's a little bit lighter, I think. There's some backlighting here. So I'm just going to go right down the left side of the vase, like so. Like this. I'll go right down the left side. I'll make it a little bit darker. A little bit more opaque with some burnt sienna in the center. I'll also add some cerulean blue toward the center of this. And on the underside of this here, more shade. There's more shadowing underneath the top of the vase where the flowers are. And kind of a light feeling on the outer edge of the vase. Okay, and there's again a little bit of the cerulean blue for the underside, the shadowing. And the center here of the vase will be darker. So the light's coming from the behind. So there's light coming from behind and from the front of the seam. So it's sort of like there's a lot of light in the picture just overall. So this is not where we're just seeing one light, like a backlight or light coming from the right or the left, from above or anything like that. It's kind of like we see light from the back. There's some light on the front of the vase. So we'll just enjoy the fact that we don't have to worry too much about light source right now and shadowing. We just know that there is light throughout this painting. I definitely know there's light coming from behind. That's where I think I'll put my shadows. So I'll take some of the cerulean blue, like this. A little bit of the pink from the flowers, a little bit of green, a little bit of blue, French ultramarine. I'll just take quite a few different colors and just try to get a shadow going here. And there's also shadowing here from the flowers above. So I'm going to try to capture that effect of the flowers above, like this. So I'll gently tap on some shadowing over here, maybe a little bit of purple in there. So now if we put some purple in our shadowing, what I usually, if I ever introduce a new color into my painting, then what I do is I just automatically mix in some water and lightly put that purple in various locations. There. So I'm going to start to put in some purple here and there. No worries. If you put that little bit of purple everywhere now, that's what I always do right away. Oh, I added a new color. Well, that means now I'm going to start going around and putting it everywhere else. And more shadow over here. Shadows get lighter further away. A little bit back there. Okay, and purple, we want more purple there. And we'll go across the back where the table is there. And just scrub in some wash there. A couple of bits of paint. A little bit of blue, green, red, pink, purple. I might just add a little bit of darker tonal value, maybe under a few things here. All right, so I'm going to take another quick break. I think we can finish up on the next bit of So we'll finish up, I think, on the next go here. Once we take a break, I think we'll finish up the flowers. We'll actually need a few more, maybe a couple more, maybe another 15, 20 minutes. I think we should be able to finish. We'll get some more of the finer details in once everything is dry 100%. So we'll just I'll empty my water now. And especially when we're doing the backdrop, we definitely want to have fresh, clean water so that we can keep the tones looking nice and light, tonal values. So I'll just splash on some fresh, clean water. Like that. Okay, so I just want to leave some white paper up here on the right, down here on the left. Get another tissue here, a clean tissue, and I'll just blot up a little bit of the paint. Same here. Okay, so this way we have some wash on the paper on the backdrop behind the flower arrangement, and then also some really bright white paper. So that kind of gives us the feeling of light coming across in the picture. And we have white here on the table, so that's bright white for the light, the sunlight. And I think this is looking good so far. So I think, yeah, we're at like probably 80% complete now. I think we just have a little more to do in the flowers, some of the finer details, and then I think we'll call this one finished. And happy that you're here and painting along with me. So just want to mention, if I haven't mentioned before, please subscribe on the right hand side below. This way you stay in touch with us. I don't know if it might be your first time here. A lot of times many new people will come along here on my videos week in and week out. So if you're kind of brand new, or maybe you've been painting a while in watercolor but you haven't checked out my channel, I'm hoping you'll subscribe. On the right hand side below, you just click the button, and this way I'll be in your YouTube subscription, so this way you won't kind of lose track of me, because I know sometimes in the past I've even watched videos I thought were great, but I forgot to hit subscribe, and then I couldn't find the person again. So it can be challenging sometimes. I know sometimes I use multiple devices like phone. I use my home computer, my phone, to look at videos on YouTube. And so sometimes I might watch something on another device, and then when I go to find it in like the history, sometimes I can click on the history button and find things that I've watched before, but sometimes it doesn't show up in the history for some reason, because I might have been using my phone or my home computer and it didn't save. So in any case, I'm hoping you'll subscribe, and I'm happy that you're here painting along with us, and we're just going to keep going here. And I'll always mention too in the comments section below, we have my new book is there. If you're interested in purchasing my book, I also have a video that shows you all the pages of my book, so you'll see all the paintings that I have in my book, which is a lot. They're beautiful to work from, watercolor, and you can also, even oil painting, if you like oil painting or acrylic painting, you can actually work from the photographs that I have in my book of my paintings, because they work for any medium, really, any painting medium. And we have all the supplies too. Art supplies are all down below, so if you want to click on any of the links, you'll find links to all the things we're going to be using here, all the art supplies, the paints, the brushes, the paper, different things like the pencils, erasers, all kinds of interesting things. So anyway, we have lots here for you to enjoy for watercolor, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes, and we'll finish up. All right, so we're going to get started again. I think the best thing we can do now is let's give ourselves a little more room to work. We'll take our photograph, and I'll put it over here. And I did add a little bit of more rose madder and alizarin crimson to these flowers here. While we were taking a break, I just was over by my table here working, or looking at things, and I kind of just started working. Sometimes I forget that I forget myself, and I just start to add something in, and while we're on break, but no big deal. I just added a little more straight paint from the palette onto these flowers here so that it makes them a little more vibrant and exciting looking. And let's continue. Over here we have the right side of our bouquet. And right away I noticed there's lots of green leaf forms. So we'll start to get those in here. That one there is maybe olive green. Then we have some burnt umber. And then we have some more pink flowers here. And a little bit of shadowing here. And I think I'll take my needlepoint brush and I will French ultramarine blue and burnt umber and some burnt sienna. A little bit of cerulean blue, I think, as well. And green. Only thing is I want to make sure it's thick paint. I don't want to have too much water in this, so I'll mix up a little more paint. So the key with doing the fine needlepoint brush work is the paint has to be somewhat thick. You want to have some water in it, but just a little bit of water, not too much. If you have a lot of water in it, once you put it onto the paper, it'll wind up eventually just fading out a lot. So you want quite a bit, like for your water to paint mixing ratio, you want much more paint and not that much water for the fine stem work. And then when you get the brush loaded up with lots of paint, then you just take a little bit of that paint off the brush on a tissue or paper towel just so you don't have too much on there. And then you can come in here and then we'll just start doing some of the finer bits of our stems and things in the vase here. So I'll do a few over here. I'm not going to go too heavy with these type of things, these type of details. They should be sparingly, just enough to give us the idea that there's some interesting stem forms in the painting. But we wouldn't want to just start putting a lot into the painting. That would detract our attention from like the flowers and the beautiful colors and the greens and things like that in here. So I'll take this again, lift this up, and I'll bring this over here. And I usually just rest my hand on the paper. My paper is dry now up here, so I can rest my hand on the paper. And then I do a few more. And I kind of sometimes, kind of flick the paint on, or, kind of do those sort of quick brush strokes like that. Again, I pick up more paint, and again, this paint is pretty thick, not too much water. Dry off a little bit on a paper towel or a tissue, and then I might just do a couple like this, like that. And then I remove this just to kind of stand back and look at it, and kind of ask myself the question, does it look like it's sort of finishing up now? Does it look good? My painting, is it, do I want to do more details? And then right now I think, no, I don't want to really do much more to this. I think this is the perfect place to stop now for the painting. You can always go back in a day or two later or a week later and add in a few more touches of things, as long as you just have your, what colors you use. You kind of have an idea. You can look at your painting usually and figure out what colors you use. That's after a while. I mean, if you're brand new and you're just starting out in watercolor, your first 6 months or a year, you might have sometimes a little bit of a challenge maybe figuring out what colors you did use. You might be looking at it and maybe scratching your head a little bit and saying, I'm not sure if I use, alizarin crimson or rose madder or cadmium red or something like that. Like, you sometimes might question yourself, but if you've been painting 3 to 4, 5 years, you kind of have a feel for it. And I'm happy for those of you that are painting quite a long time, because then it's a little easier to paint and kind of do things like that, like add some details in if you want to. But I don't think we need to add any details into this at all. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I have to usually step back a step or two and look, and I think I probably would like to add a little bit of tonal value over here with some blue. And then some red. Maybe a little bit of blue over here. And if I go over onto the white of the paper, no problem. I just lift that up quick and then just make it a little less of paint. So I just lift up some of the paint and leave it like that. And then I might come over here and do maybe a little bit over here too, like that. And I guess what I like to do is make sure I get some of that rose madder and alizarin crimson, just to have a little bit of that color mixed in here in some of these shadows. I think it just kind of balances everything. I think that looks good. So I'm going to say that's a completed painting. I'm really happy again that you've joined along here. We're having lots of fun. We're doing these type of paintings on an ongoing basis on my channel. We do flowers, landscapes, seascapes, city scenes. We do portrait paintings, figure paintings, everything watercolor. And we kind of just pride ourselves here. I pride myself on always trying to give the basics and the fundamentals of what I'm doing each video, so that if you're watching my videos for 6 months to a year, you probably you'll have the basics of what you'll need to continue painting in watercolor and really have like a a good time of moving forward in your painting, because you kind of have like the foundation and the base to everything that you need to move forward. You can always, I'm sure everyone probably watches other videos, other watercolor artists, and that's great too. I think try to learn from as much, or try to learn from as many watercolor artists as you can, and you find the ones that you think are kind of in line with how you enjoy painting. That's one of the main things about painting in watercolors. Usually artists with different styles, let's say my style, is more, might be realistic with more details. There might be other artists that paint with not as much detail, and they use maybe a lot more water, things like this or whatever. The techniques are really, with watercolor, it kind of makes a big difference. So it's sometimes hard to paint in other people's techniques if they're kind of different, like in a major way. So if you're painting this way, and then you try to go paint a painting with using like tons of water and tons of glazes and like not too much detail, more abstract or something, you probably would have more of a challenge, because you'd be changing the fundamental things that you're doing on an ongoing basis. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's always good to, if you can, find an artist or artists that kind of paint in a similar way, using the same brushes, the same type of paint application on your watercolor paintings. That is very helpful, because in the beginning, I think I had more of a struggle with, I was following all different types of artists, using all different types of techniques. I did learn a lot, but I actually, at some point, I had to just say I have to follow like one sort of technique, detailed technique that I found worked for me the best, and then use that. So that's kind of one of the keys with watercolor when you're painting and you're trying to find your niche with the way you want to paint and how you want to paint. Once you find that niche, you find what you like, and you kind of feel like that's what's going to work for you, then you kind of stick with that and you go for it. And then even after a number of years or something, you might decide, oh, I'm just going to change again. That's fine too. But I think at some point you have to kind of just like evaluate your style and what you want to kind of create as far as your paintings go. And then you just stick with those same techniques over and over and over again, and you refine them and get better and better at them until eventually it's more very smooth and easy process to paint and create paintings and enjoy watercolor. So I'm hoping this is all helpful information for you. I'm excited. We're going to be painting again soon together. So until we get together on the next video, we'll see you soon, and have a great day, great evening, great morning, and happy painting.